And it's the dumbest bill in America, and you won't believe it. The dumbest bill in America is banning the public from the legislative process. Let me say that again. It's to ban the public from the legislative process. What does that mean? Well, in the state of California, what a surprise, in the state of California, they have introduced Assembly Constitutional Amendment number 25.
California, and it's a constitutional amendment.
Yes, they love these constitutional amendments, and its purpose is to, during emergencies, to prohibit the public from participating in any kind of legislation because it's an emergency. So here's what it says. The measure would permit the legislature to restrict the public's physical access to a proceeding subject to the provision if it was warranted by circumstances of a state of emergency. Now, to be fair, this is what the bill said. That was its intent. And then it has since been, of course, amended. They amended this out, but what they haven't changed is that during emergencies,
proxy voting.
You can proxy vote. You meaning a member.
Remotely.
You could, if you're a legislator,
yes,
you're elected at the assembly level in California, the state senate or the assembly, you can just vote from your house. And let's face it, if there's an emergency, you know the state of California, of all places, they have every intent of excluding any kind of public input. Thoughts on this as a millennial? Would this concern you?
I've seen a lot of terrible bills in state legislatures get defeated because a bunch of people came and made a ruckus in a committee hearing. And something like this, taking the voice of the people out of the legislative process concerns me because
it's huge.
It's huge because how do you?
It's the cornerstone of a republic, of a democratic, a democracy, of a democrat republic. The fact that you elect people, but then they inform you as to what's going on, and then you can show up
and make a statement.
A statement about whether you support the legislation or not support the legislation, and you can do so in person or you can do so electronically and remotely.
I also hate when people want to legislate extensively during a crisis. I mean, there's a time when you should probably get the essentials done and leave, not try to ram through as many bills as you can in such a short amount of time.
More Democrat mayhem. Absolutely, but my understanding is, and I have to check this because we haven't had the time because of the news cycles moving so quickly. My understanding is a couple of Republicans signed up for this too, saying, "Oh yeah, if there's an emergency, we got to make sure that we can do stuff as well." And
well, Mark, California Assembly Republicans, I can't speak for them. I don't know any of them, but I'm sure that they're not Republicans per se. I'm not going to throw out the word rhino or Reno, whatever the hell it is.
I think some of them are Republicans. Look, here's the background.
I understand the initial concern and why people might have, when COVID happened 3 months ago, been like, oh my God.
Gavin Newsom was given extraordinary powers, just like all governors across America.
Yeah.
And the legislatures did this to give the governors exclusive powers and lots of emergency powers. And this is the assembly in the state of California saying, you know what, we don't want to be left out in the future if there's an emergency. We want to make sure that we have exclusive powers as well, and we're going to cut out the public in the process because, those pesky constituents might get in the way of our plans.
Those voters.
Yes.
Those people who give me power.
And that's the state of California saying that.
That's one of those things that really bothers me about politicians is that when they get to a point where they think that they're just bigger than the job or bigger than the foundation of the job where, I am blankety blank, assembly person, chairman of this such and such committee, and it's but at the end of the day, you're accountable to the people who elected you. Your job is to serve them.
Absolutely.
You can't take them for granted. You
really can't.
Once you start taking your constituency for granted, you just kind of go off the reservation, and bad things happen.
That is fundamentally the issue in America now. That so many people believe that. And they've lost confidence in government. And I don't think that this bill, this constitutional amendment number 25 in California, is going to help.
I am encouraged, though, because from my understanding, despite the fact that California throws in all these terrible constitutional amendments, they're very good as a people of voting them down. They're I've seen a bunch of interesting breakdowns. So my dad lives in California. I'm apparently well traveled, but so when I drive out there, when I go out there and I see him, it's you'll see signs, picket signs, how here in Maryland people put up these big, vast yard signs, big 5x8s, even huge ones.
You mean for elected officials?
For elected officials,
okay,
they'll do these just for constitutional amendments. They'll be like, vote no on Amendment 14, and then they'll just like, and you'll see it, and you'll read the amendment, and it's like some crazy, permitting a 15% sales tax on yes, yes, and yes, and it'll like overwhelmingly lose like 80% to 20%. And which when I read these things, it shocks me because I think all you have to do is just run into some of these cities in California and just be like, vote yes for 14, and whip up the bids to do it.
Are like,
but even then, like they struggle to be able to get those things. So but that's why I like. For as much as I want to say California constitutional amendments, I don't mind when you leave legislation up to the people to decide, Now, here's what I'll say this is dangerous, is that if California votes for this and they approve it, they got to wear it.
We've demonstrated that in California that has not worked very well.
It might not work, I like when it's left up to the people, but also do your research, learn about the bill before you make a decision on it. Don't just show up and vote for it.
Exactly. So vote no on California constitutional amendment number 25.
Yeah, and if you don't know, don't vote for it.
That's right.
And
that's the last
either
word.
Vote no or don't vote.
And that's the last word, and that's the dumbest bill in America. This is Mark Fisher. Thank you for joining Mark and the Millennials. Thank you to our millennial, Garrick Ross, and of course our producer, Adam Katora, and our assistant producer, Christopher Hopkins. Check us out on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and our website. See you next time.